Meeting to order. This is the weekly finance meeting of the Commissioners. Today, August 24, 2022, at hour 1:30 p.m. We'll be in order and begin with a period of public comment for anyone wishing to address the Board of Commissioners. Guess not. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes, which are of our previous meeting, August 10 of this year. I'll entertain a motion.
I should make a motion to approve the minutes of August 10, 2022.
I second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to item 4, the topic of discussion today, which is the Cronus Infor Lawson upgrades. And we've got Beth and Mark and others on hand, the whole crew's on hand. So who's running the point on this today? Beth. Okay, pretty good.
So thank you for having us. Today's purpose for this meeting is just to give you the information on the upcoming Cronus upgrade and the Lawson upgrade. The Cronus one is fairly new to us. That's the one we're going to start with because we were just informed at the beginning of August that the end of life for the version that we are on is coming up sooner than we thought. As you know, Cronus is our timekeeping system. It's used by all county employees. It contains their schedules, their timesheets, any punching, payroll calculations, and approvals. And it automates the time off request and approval process. It allows employees to check their own leave balances on a daily basis. And it integrates with Lawson to bring all the payroll information from Cronus to Lawson. So as far as we're concerned, Cronus meets our needs. And I don't know what we would have done without Cronus during the whole COVID thing. The fact that everything was electronic made it so much easier than trying to get paper timesheets from people that are working at home. So with that, we'd like to continue with Cronus, and our current software is called Workforce Central, and the end of life is 12/31/2025. And that sounds like it's way off into the future, but between that and the Lawson upgrade, they're coming up fast. So what was nice about Cronus is when I talked to our rep, he let us know ahead of time that this announcement is going to be made. So on October 17th, UKG, which is the new Cronus, they're going to announce this end of life. With him announcing it early, it gave us a heads up on planning ahead. And he also made us an offer that if we replace our Workforce Central with the UKG Dimensions, which is a cloud software, that we can get a discount on the migration. So UKG Dimensions is very similar in how it runs with Workforce Central. Look and feel will be a little different, but the nuts and bolts of it are pretty much the same. UKG Dimensions is hosted in Google Cloud, and it's been hosted there since 2018. This is not the cloud version that was a problem back in December. This is Google Cloud, but not the home Cronus feature. Our goal is to implement Cronus prior to the import upgrade so that we can streamline our efforts.
Beth, when did we go live with Cronus? It feels like yesterday.
Okay, so the nursing home went live like in what, 2004? And then public prison went after that, and then public safety went, and then the rest of the county went over the years.
That's the date I'm looking for.
So that's the date.
17 or 18.
17 or 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
So
I think it was
I think
18.
by the time
All of
we
our
were done,
patterns, all of our patterns are from 18. So
yeah.
Okay.
So UKG is offering a one-time migration deal if we sign it prior to September 30th. They give us the September 30th deadline because They want to get us in a queue of all the people that want to go from the Workforce Central to Dimensions. A typical migration fee equals about $79,000. UKG is willing to waive $74,000, requiring us only to pay the $4,800 in the training costs. So this would require us to sign up for a 5-year agreement with the Dimensions. What they will do is they will lock that cost in for 5 years. So we would not have the percentage increase year after year like we currently do on our licensing plan that we are currently on. So if you take the amount of increases for each year for our current software and compare it to what we would be paying for the software in the cloud, we would, and taking advantage of this migration cost savings, in the 5-year total, we would save about $12,000. If we don't take advantage of this now, then we would have to pay for migration services.
What would year 6 be like, or don't we know?
They do give us a right to renew our contract, but I assume it would be with the 4% increase that's standard.
Okay.
One of the cost savings that really isn't here is after the 5 years, we might not be saving costs with the services anymore, but we would no longer need to buy additional hardware. So we would save on server costs and server maintenance and all the software that gets assigned to the servers.
Right now, we're projected to be spending that new hardware around year 4 or 5 of this. What's up on the screen? So we would, get those savings, once we've finished this 4 or 5 year process with the.
Thanks.
So what's being proposed here is that a unanimous agreement among the folks who are involved in evaluation? It is. Okay. All right. And who all was involved in the evaluation? Is it the names that are on there?
Yeah.
Okay, so Beth, Mark, Bob DeGrossa, Dana, and Holly.
Yeah, that's the core ERT team.
Okay.
Hey, hi, this is Bob.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yeah.
One thing that I always like to point out is, when we went to Cronus, we countywide, removed the paper-based process of timesheets and travel to get timesheets up here and, all those benefits from the system. But one thing that I always tout is, this Cronus isn't a time clock. Cronus is a workforce management system. And I think the information that we've been able to get out of this type of system, I know Holly and Dana could tell you that the information that we're able to get out of it is invaluable in some of the exercises they need to go through. Contains a lot of information other than just, keeping punches. I think when we first broached the subject when Beth first brought this to us, my first suspicion was, okay, we're waiving $75,000 in fees. Sounds to me like we're going to be a testing guinea pig. But from what the history seems to indicate, this is the version that they've been rolling out to new customers for quite some time. So, all those benefits and, looking at this required jump to a new platform, it does make sense, especially in light of the other projects we have coming down the road in a few years as well.
Bob, since you mentioned about the functionality, are there other functionality needs that this is not necessarily addressing that we can either bolt on, as it were, later, or was there any reason to even consider looking at other options?
When you say other options, Gary, you mean other software solutions or?
Possibly, just anything. I'm trying to cast a broad net. I don't know.
Sure. When we did the implementation, the purchase of the system, the upgrade to the full system several years back, would we say 17, 18? We looked at several other competitors. And, it's true, Cronus is the industry leader. There's a reason for that. And some of these other competitors just could not meet our needs. One thing that after we implemented, we did have about a year of post rollout meetings with various core users, big heavy user departments. And, we asked them, is there anything the system isn't doing that you wish it could do? I think the one area that seems to come up from time to time is there are probably some scheduling needs that some departments have. Some of the big departments. I know that 911 is currently looking at some scheduling software, that would seem to fall in line with 24/7 type operations, potentially the prison. There's been some discussion with those groups in terms of the integration between, what Cronus offers versus what other systems might offer. Doesn't seem to be a perfect match at this point, but if there's one area I think that repeatedly will come up, it would be that, the scheduling solution, because Cronus's schedule is, there's powerful schedule capabilities, but some areas such as 911 identify that they have additional requirements above and beyond what the system can offer. So that's something that is being looked at. We actually had a couple meetings in the last month on that with those folks.
Okay, so this is the optimal solution for now, that there's other possibilities. Do we anticipate any modules being available that would essentially build over this current build that would address some of those issues? Does this have that kind of flexibility, or?
I would defer to Beth and Robert on that.
I'm looking right at it.
Okay. So when talking to our rep and the technical people at Kronos, when I tried to explain to them the issues that the 911 are having with their scheduling, they weren't surprised. So I'm hoping with this new dimensions, once we learn more about how that scheduling package works, if they can meet the needs of 911. Like I said, they weren't surprised, and they were waiting for me to say about the 4-hour increments between fire and police, and only allowing certain people to be able to fill those positions. So it did not sound new to them. So I'm very hopeful that it might be a solution for them.
All right, sounds good. Not that we want to be the test bed, and the public safety guys will be the first ones to attest to what that looks like. So, just one other question, and that is this UKG. Is that the original parent company, or was Kronos acquired by another company, or what's the?
It's the original company. They
It is the original
just
company.
changed the name.
They just changed. Okay.
UKG stands for Ultimate Kronos Group.
Yes.
Ultimate Kronos.
Ultimate.
Two groups merged into one. There's the Ultimate Group and Kronos, and that's how they got Ultimate Kronos Group.
I see why they went to UKG. Okay, that's all the questions I have. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Beth, I have a couple of questions. I'm looking at your 5-year cost analysis. And so I was hoping Bob was going to ask the question, but he alluded to it. My first question is, why are they giving this service credit of $74,700? And what does less than training expense mean? I mean, when I read that, what it means is that they're going to charge us for training and deduct it from the credit. And if that's true, how much is the training cost?
The training cost is about $4,800, and that's subtracted from the original $79,000. That was the migration fee. So that's why it says the less training. They already did the subtraction in that number. And then your other question, I can only speculate, but with the problems they had back in December with their cloud solution, that was a private cloud. I think they're pushing everybody to go from Workforce Central to Dimensions, which is in the Google Cloud. And I think that just relieves them of having to keep two softwares that are basically doing the same product. So I think this is their way of pushing us to go so that they can drop their one solution. Like I said, I don't have any facts in the basis, but from some of the comments that I was told, that's pretty much what I've been getting the hint that they just want to drop the Workforce Central altogether.
It's a huge discount.
It is.
It's an alarm, and it raises some red flags for me. I would like to know more about why they're offering that discount. Did they put that on the table at the beginning of the conversation? Did you get into negotiation with them and they went, okay, we'll offer this discount? I would want to firm that up as to what really is going on there.
I can certainly talk to them and get back to you.
So did they offer this at the onset of the investigation into this project?
It was offered out of the blue, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Mark, on that same line of questioning, how does this discount differ in terms of what other software companies do in terms of trying to lock in longer term contracts?
Yeah, everyone's giving discounts to move to cloud services because their costs then dramatically drop because now they're supporting something that's live. So right now, if you take Kronos, we have it installed locally, as does 50,000 other customers. So now they may be maintaining 50 instances locally, where now they're focused on supporting things in the cloud. We're all using the same software, so their costs are dropping too. So it's really a win for them. They're charging us more money, so that's a win, but they're able to maintain. And I mean, they're really able to address performance issues, security issues, functionality issues, all that kind of stuff right out of the, from a core product instead of pushing patches to 50,000 customers.
That's very helpful.
I just, as you talk with them, I think really it might be important to get to the root of, are they trying to get counties, you mentioned getting them in the queue? So are they trying to front end everyone to get that transition occurring so that by the time they get to 2025, they don't have anybody who at the last minute is going to need to make that transition?
I agree, and I think their deadline is specific because their announcement's coming August 7th or October 17th. And so they're gonna get a lot of customers really trying to jump on board quickly. So I think, like you said, they're trying to front load that and get us to a point so they can start that migration earlier for all their customers.
Other questions? Anyone? Anybody on the team want to offer a last
We have more
opinion?
slides.
Get more slides, okay.
We just stop for questions on the Kronos piece. So
Got it. Okay.
So Lawson is now in for. You'll still hear me say Lawson because 19 years. I say Lawson, it's in for, they're one and the same now. The new software is Cloud Suite. And why we want to upgrade to Cloud Suite. So we're going to start with a little background information. And Dana, you want to talk about your financials?
When we started this, once a month, I used to sit in this room and burst out 3-part papers. And that was the only way everybody got their reports, once a month, very, very old school. Now, everybody in real time has updated financial information that they can run reports at any time, that we are able to export into Excel or databases and all kinds of other things. And we've been able to move more from a data entry perspective to an analytic perspective, which is greatly enhanced and improved the financial information that we're able to provide the commissioners and the timeliness of it. When this all started, we closed our books like 6 months after year end. Sometimes it may feel like that, but we actually have pretty good numbers by January 15th. They tweak a little bit, but we have decent numbers. So for us, where we came from to where we've come is huge. And I think the next step can be just as transformational. Did you want me to talk about the GL setup and everything too, or just?
when we went to Lawson, we had to go through a lot of initial setup. With the new cloud suite, they're giving us additional ways to set up Lawson that might meet our needs and make us more efficient and make us have the ability to do things through process flows and automate it rather than doing it by hand. Payroll also got an improvement. Bob?
Sure. So a little historical context and kind of building up to the implementation of this system. When I started in '94, our workhorse was the IBM AS400 mainframe. And a lot of the programs that departments used were housed on the AS400, which was housed in the controller's office. And there were all these dummy terminals attached to it. Dummy terminals meaning that's all they were. They were just terminals that would, with a keyboard, and you'd go into the AS400. I think when I started here, there were 40 PCs in the entire county. The privileged few had them. Dennis Marion really was the one who started the drive to get the county into a more PC type environment. But the one thing that became apparent over the years, as Dana said, our financial, our payroll, all of our systems were very manual. Dana, when Dana started working for me, I would have somebody work 2 days a month, just printing reports, bursting reports, putting them in the mail, sending them out. It was, and everything was always behind the times. Like we didn't have financial data until we closed for a month. So we were always a month behind in terms of real-time data, if it was even real time. John Ward was really the big driver, and we need real-time financial data to be able to make sound business decisions. And at the time, the legacy system we had been using was pretty much coming to its end. And this is around the year 2000. And at that point, John, Al, and Jerry Wilkes, the IMTO director at the time, through a group decision amongst all those departments and with finance under John, really started to embark on, let's look at an ERP system. Let's look at a shared system where all the modules are connected to each other. Because even though we had this building network capabilities of PCs coming into the county, we also found that everybody was doing their own thing locked away on their own little networks. There was no common access to data. So one of the big starting points for this ERP project was a shareholder needs assessment. You know, there was no controller's office, there was no finance office, there was no definitive ownership. It was a combined ownership. It was defined as we are all the stakeholders in this, the controller's office, HR, finance, the human service folks. And we sat down and we developed a needs assessment. What do we need this system to do? What is it that definitely it has to do? What would we like it to do? What would make our wildest dreams come true? And we used that to develop an RFI for various software systems that were in existence at the time. Sent it out to the various, JD Edwards was one, Lawson was one, SAP was one, even though the state's struggles with SAP were well documented at the time and still are. And we then had these companies come in and demo. Now, don't just tell us you can do it, show us you can do it. And Infor Lawson was by far the best product of all of them. And we automated it to the extent that we possibly could with improved workflow processes to do approvals electronically. So, you know, we went from not only developing our needs assessment, but we started from scratch and we said, let's kind of throw everything out the window and let's base building this system on sound business practices. And we, to the extent we could, we eliminated data redundancy, data entry redundancy. It used to be that people would sit and type into an Excel spreadsheet what the accounts payable folks would then need to sit and type into the accounts payable module of the old system. We eliminated that. And we developed a way that the users could enter data directly. Same thing with payroll. We went from the paper timesheets to integrating right in the system from Cronus. So we took a lot of, we took automation to the extent we could, interfaces. We looked at opportunities to redesign systems and try to bring them more in line with what the sound business practices were. And I will say, I think we did a pretty good job because we have stood the test of time, and what we have built continues to exist today. There were definitely efficiencies gained, and a lot of times you hear about systems and efficiencies gained, and we'll use that manpower elsewhere, which in a lot of cases is true. In the controller's office, we actually were able to delete a position because of the efficiencies that were gained. That was the gain share project we did several years ago. And I know there are other departments that just took so much of what used to be manual data entry that now we could just upload directly from the system, and they're able to actually utilize time better, managing data, analyzing data instead of inputting data. And I think that really was one of the key elements to jumping from where we were, designing a system that met everybody's needs, not just one or two departments, and taking the opportunities to automate, become more efficient wherever we could. Payroll was one of those. Payroll was a very disjointed process. HR had their piece, controller's office had their piece. Now the two are they're connected through the HR module, the payroll module, the Cronus module. I mean, that's just an example, and right to departments with real-time data. That's just an example of the types of efficiencies that were gained through all this. It was a well-built system, and like I said, stood the test of time.
Human resources, Ally?
So unlike Bob and Dana, I was not here for Lawson, so I've been told it was horrific. Told manual processes, salary book, and a Word document, which just I cringe thinking about it. But I was fortunate enough to come in and have Lawson, and coming from a different system, it took a little while to learn it, but I will say every single member of my staff uses Lawson daily. We are able to update data instantaneously. When we have a perfect example is when there's a salary increases across the board, we just upload a spreadsheet versus having to go in and enter every single one. I cannot even imagine how to do something like that. The reporting capabilities, we can run reports as we need them. We can have an ERP if we need a report that's not already out there. Just being able to use that data in union negotiations, or analyzing if a policy should be changed, or just having the information at your fingertips is great in Lawson. And then the options that we would have in Cloud Suite that we're hearing about, even more excited to have more opportunities there on the HR side, or speak to what we've talked about or not. But it's
with implementing Cloud Suite, we do have the option of then having additional software that we have to purchase, but a performance management system very similar to what our homegrown version is, and an applicant tracking system similar to HighRail. What's the new?
Calvin Reach.
Thank you. So they have their own pieces that are integrated with Lawson seamlessly. So it's an opportunity to maybe take some of the pressure off of IMTO doing homegrown products and being able to use something that is supported by another company.
One thing we didn't touch on was the payroll piece as far as efficiencies. We do a little bit of self-service now with Lawson, a little bit. It's viewing screens. They can't change a lot of information. And that's because the current system doesn't have all the auditing requirements that Bob's office is looking for. So the upgrade to the new Infor system would have increased auditing so that we could allow staff to change different items in HR electronically and also do it from home. So there's some powerful benefits to allowing our staff to do our end users to do their own data entry. update payroll, accounting, deduction, whatever those different things are. Bob will probably be cringing, but, with the audit capabilities, I think it's a little bit more open to allow business to change.
I think one of the ones that was a real dramatic improvement, and Holly, you could speak to that, is the open enrollment, what that used to be versus, what we're able to do online now. And, that's a piece of that. A lot of work went into that, but that's a prime example right there.
We are always looking for any like heavy paper-driven processes to make them automated, and we've been doing open enrollment for 5 years, maybe more than that.
I think it's 6.
All through Lawson. Previously, it was all paper-driven, so that even though Lawson's been around for 19 years, we are still finding things to move on.
There's a lot of emails that get sent out, paper, printed, forms that go to employees, what's the W2 at the end of the year. We can potentially just grab it online rather than printing them and mailing them to all the staff. So
Paychecks, like if you want to go to loan, they want to see the last 2 paychecks.
So why Infor? Infor is still ranked as one of the top leaders in ERP solution. They integrate their product, can handle complex situations and very industry specific. The county has been using Infor for 19 years, with, I would say, great success. Why do we need to upgrade? Again, end of life, my favorite terms. Our Windows server, which is the operating system for the server, is the support ends on 10/10/2023. We cannot install Lawson ourselves. It is required to be installed by a Lawson representative. So if we want to update the operating system, we would have to have somebody from Lawson come in and install it. Rather than reinstalling the version we're on, because the version we're on, end of life is 5/31/2025. So rather than reinstall what we have, rather go right to the Cloud Suite version 11, to save the county from going through this process more than once. Benefits of upgrading M4 Cloud Suite. Less time dedicated to hardware management and server patching and testing. The new M4 product, it is upgraded every month. So, and that's a requirement. If we were to host this on site, then we would be spending every month doing these upgrades and then testing them and making sure that they're not breaking anything that we are required to have. Allowing Infor to do all the actual upgrades lets us concentrate on just the testing. This frees up both IMTO and ERP time because we no longer have to update the servers either. Also being in the cloud, it would give access to employee self-service to all employees. They would not need to be at work or on VPN to get to employee self-service. The main application where people would do requisitions and journal entries and budget adjustments would still require VPN access so that it's secure. So Cloud Suite, we can take this opportunity to reconfigure the system to improve county processes. So over the years, there's been things that I identified that I wish this would work better. I wish that would work better. Could we automate this? Could we have this run automatically on its own without somebody launching it? This is the opportunity to take our time and figure out if we can solve some of these issues we'd like to solve. We can also explore the use of additional modules. Some we would have to pay for, some would be part of it. We currently do not use the accounts receivable module, but that might be something we would want to use in the future. And that comes with Cloud Suite. You have better options for forms. Electronic W-2s are possible, 1099s. This would prevent a lot of printing and mailing. Also, stuff is built into this version, so we might not need a third party to print our payroll checks. If we still have checks to print, working on it, then, you know, this software includes that, and we don't have to have a third party software for that.
Are we still required to provide the option of a physical paycheck?
Bob?
My understanding, when we ran this through Palumbo's group, was that yes, employees still have the option to request a paycheck, a paper image of their paycheck, if so required. And it is also, I believe it is also something that would have to be negotiated in any union contracts also. We looked into that several years ago. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Bob.
So the class suite also has integrated document management. So things that we're looking for, one example would be with the purchase orders and quotes that have to be attached to them. We can have them attached automatically and no more emailing them back and forth to people. Improve audit capabilities. My Clapsaddle will love this one because virtually everything you do in this new version is time stamped with a date, a time, and who did it. Currently, we have some capabilities of an audit trail, but not on everything. It says an improved user face. So that's subjective because what I think is an easy user face, you know, somebody else might not. So they say it's more improved, more user friendly. Data analytics for better reporting. Where we have analytics in Kronos, we really don't have analytics with Lawson. Anytime anybody needs ad hoc reporting, Jake gets called.
Well, we do have some capability to do it on our
Yeah,
own too.
okay.
Yeah, Finance does a lot on their own. We only call him for the real difficult ones.
HR calls it for everything.
This one actually concerns me a little bit because we'll have to go off of what we're already using. So we don't build these crystal reports.
Yeah, crystal reports just go away. It comes with a different reporting structure.
Hopefully it's easy to use.
So what's next? There's a pre-planning assessment that would include on-site shadowing the process owners, us, finance, controller's office, treasurer's office, human resources, and even the solicitors for their contract contract process. Educate the process owners on version 11 functionality, review reports that reporting needs, and develop future plans, develop project scope, timelines, and budget costs, and it needs assistance. So we have been using RPI as a vendor for the last 10 years. We've had good success with them. They're a leading M4 partner. They have experience working with government entities, not to mention our own. We've used them for several past projects. They have excellent value. They're willing to teach us anything that they know so that we can handle it ourselves. And a lot of the consultants that we use that worked for other companies are now working for RPI. So they train ERP staff so that we can better support the county. And I like that they're based in Baltimore.
Quick nod.
So they're local.
Yeah, a quick nod to them as a vendor. We had an issue with Lawson just about a month ago. And we had open calls with Lawson to try to troubleshoot what the heck was going on. They called the RPI folks and they had it fixed within half a day.
Right.
With no charge, no nothing. So they're very good vendor for us. They have been for years.
I think it's probably important to say too, how important that relationship is. Because if we onboarded a new vendor, there would be a huge learning curve. RPI already knows us and knows our systems. And they kind of know how we think too. So we already have that advantage with this specific vendor. And they're and they like to make good process changes also. So we work well together in creating process improvement.
So RPI is offering a pre-planning assessment. They have a flat fee of $60,000. And the assessment would provide the following deliverables: an educational overview, the differences between what we're currently using and version 11, the project scope and approach, requirements and, need better glasses. And thank you. Said they're willing to give us a timeline on how this project would work. They're willing to take a look at all of our interfaces and our workflow and give us a cost on how much it would cost to implement the cloud suite. They will take a look at our reporting needs and make sure that we can have a timeline of how to get the reporting up and running. Give us budgetary estimates on the cost of not only the cloud suite product, but also the implementation costs. And then provide an executive presentation to explain everything for everybody. Right now, we're estimating a full implementation of cloud suite to be about $4 million. At one point, it was module by module. And it gave us a quote for like $500,000 per module. But at this point, we really don't have a good, this is how much it's going to cost. So we feel that this pre-planning process would be very helpful to get a scope of how much this is going to cost the county.
The implementation cost really is driven by what we want to change, what we need to change. And so if we were just to do the flat migration, it'd probably be cheap and easy, but unfortunately or fortunately, we have a team in here that wants to make big changes. And so we might want to make some changes that really are going to improve our processes. We don't know yet until we know all the features of the version 11, and so that educational piece is really critical to us understanding how
technology's really changed over the last 19 years. And so a lot of things that were pie in the sky dreams that we wanted to do are now probably included in what they do. And Beth gave the 3 quotes to implement that before would have been like a $2 million add-on. Well, now it's I think it's included.
Some of it.
So, I mean, those are big changes. I mean, we have to keep 2 separate systems.
Mhm.
It's not 2 separate systems. We PDF the purchase orders and manually separate them so that we can see all the backup. Whereas if we going forward, it'll all be in one area. We won't have to have that separate area. Those kind of improvements pay off dividends in the long run. I think there's a lot of things, especially in the treasurer's office with automating some of the paper processes that we weren't able to do with the last upgrade. There'll be huge savings on just having the automated signatures and things like that. I think everybody's on board that we want to do that. Speaking for.
Well, it's my understanding my predecessor didn't engage in this process. And so I think they built a system that didn't really benefit the office as fully as it could to be as efficient as possible.
How long would it take to achieve a full implementation? We don't know yet.
It could be a year, it could be up to 3 years potentially. It all depends on the amount of changes and how we as a group decide to do the project. If we do it module by module, essentially, it could take longer. If we do it all at once, it can be done sooner.
But at greater risk of difficulties,
Yes,
correct? Okay.
yeah, all at once would be. a lot.
So in the meantime, we would be running, for each of the modules, be running a parallel system and do a switch over then, once it's fully tested out.
Potentially, yes. It could be, so we could run, if we say upgrade HR first. If we do financials first. So we do financials first, we have HR and payroll still on Lawson with financials in Cloud Suite. And then we upgrade HR, then we have HR and financials in Cloud Suite with payroll still on site. And then payroll last.
And you have to build the integration. The hard part
Yeah.
is you have to then build the integration between the old and the new, so that the data flows. So there's some benefits of going all at once. There's also some
Yeah.
benefits of doing it slower.
It's all in how this assessment plays out.
So
Kind of gives us a better idea of what we can.
we've had some history with, transitions that were migrations that were less than easy, shall we say.
Yeah.
Well-
Because everything is integrated, the changes that Dana may make in finance are going to affect payroll and HR. So if Dana makes all her changes and we put finance in, the information coming from payroll and HR doesn't necessarily integrate with Dana's new setup. Doing it all at once, you have an opportunity to build HR with finance and payroll at the same time. Everything merges together.
And one of the biggest decisions we have to make is whether we change the general ledger structure. And the controller's office and the finance office will work heavily together on that, on deciding whether we can keep what we have in place, maybe tweak it a little bit. That's the goal. But if we lose some of the functionality that we can eventually gain, we may have to change the general ledger, but I would prefer not to, because that's when you start having all issues that Jake was talking about. I'm sorry I did use that word. I tried not to, but I got hung up.
RPI is the one that would be making, essentially, give us the guidance on what's the proper way to implement.
Correct,
Okay, all right, and they're the consultant we've had
correct.
through the entire life of the Lawson, or no,
Not the entire life, but the last 10 years.
10 years, okay.
The cost that you're estimating here is 4 million. I've been hearing though, this will save this will save that. You have an estimate of those savings.
Not yet,
Yeah, not yet.
because I think just if we're able to automate some of the processes that we're currently not. I don't want to say it would be break even, but it could be. What it normally,
Like a little one from my end. So if we could do this where there's an approval process for even like making deposits, departments we may be able to work it such that their receivables come to an account. They don't have to drive in here and make a payment in our office. We can do it through a queue. Like that's just one, so it's very hard to quantify, like what's that cost
I understand.
involved. So, I mean, I can come up with a list of where I think, depending on how fully we integrate, what it could mean. We could maybe each do that, but until the assessment's really done, it might be.
Yeah,
challenging.
no, after the assessment is done, but it is something we could at least provide a guesstimate as
Yeah.
to this would save us.
Cause it's a big number.
Yeah.
and a lot,
I don't doubt it.
it may not save us a position in any one of our departments, but it gives us the ability to not add positions faster.
Right.
For example, we don't have an AR system right now, so I can't look up and see who the checks came from. So if we have a deposit for, I'll say, $50,000, I gotta go look through all the deposits for $50,000, find out who made the deposit, then contact them and say, who was this from? Whereas in this system, I would be able to look up that system and probably see the check that was deposited, or who it came from and the specific information. So it keeps me from having to contact the treasurer's office or whatever other offices may be involved to try to get the backup, because it'll all be at their fingertips. It makes it a lot faster. I'll probably still call collect.
I think we can, once we're going through this pre-planning thing, we can just document areas,
Where we
process
think it-
flow or flows that we would be improving as far as workflow.
Yep.
Bob, somebody talked about integrating documents into the system. Whether it's a PO that you have in a file cabinet, which then people need to call you, or the invoices that it's in Lawson and need to go over to like Laserpiece to actually pull up the scanned images. I mean, that's time consuming.
It's very
And so I think we should maybe look at those as we get.
Questions?
I just have one from Mark, and I don't really feel I have to ask it, but I have to ask it. So we hear a lot of stuff about, how our level of confidence in the increased reliance on the cloud and vulnerability and safety and security issues all the time. So I know you that mentioned about the VPN and such to help with that, but how do you just answer the general question or the hesitation toward migrating more and more to the
We're
cloud?
trying to use government cloud as much as possible. So our Microsoft accounts are in a government cloud, so it's fully more secure than your general cloud applications that you have in the world. Google has a cloud, I think that Kronos is going in Google Cloud. And so we're very much paying attention to those just from a security perspective. We also, Beth mentioned something about if you could be in the county and then go to that, to the cloud services for getting into your HR's data, right, or confidential HR data. So that's where the security pipe is between our physical building and their physical building, and that's what keeps it secure. It's an encrypted process. So they're just continuously changing and improving the encryption processes, connections, and one of the issues with Kronos was they had an older, their current platform was hacked. And so this is why they're pushing it into dimensions, because it's in a different environment, more secure. So yeah, we're daily on the lookout for, and we'll dig into that a little bit more with RPI as we kind of talk with them on the planning process. I am interested in knowing more about the Google pieces and RPI and also pieces. So
I'll say for Lawson, it's Amazon. Kronos is Google. So two separate, and the Infor uses Amazon Web Services, so it's Amazon's cloud, and Kronos would be Google's cloud. Just in case there's any questions about that.
Their competitors, is there any issue with they are? I mean, is there any issue with that?
They are, but there's also three main clouds.
Yeah.
So they take up what they can.
All right, so that answers, anybody else have questions?
No, I'm good for now. Good info. Carry on, in my opinion.
So the next.
That if you, after 19 years, you keep calling it Lawson every once in a while, I think
I
we'll be
will.
inclined to forgive you.
I'm sorry,
Lawson centric for so long.
still typing in.
You did a good job today, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Still typing in beach or neck everywhere, thank you. That'll take a while. The next step is to get on the agenda for contract approvals and for both the UKG Dimensions project and then the RBI consultants for the pre-planning assessment.
Okay. All right, well, this has been a heavy lift over the course of many years, so I just mentioned that I do think the continuity that this offers is extraordinarily valuable. It's going to save people's sanity as well if we proceed in this line. So, but the team has been really committed and very thorough today, so I really appreciate that. I don't have any additional questions. Anybody else? Comments? Thanks. Great job. Appreciate it. Okay. That brings us to item 4, since we've exhausted this topic, we will entertain any additional business, anything else to come from the group. I'm not hearing anything, so we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Stand adjourned.